Hey everybody, it's Bearded Gage back with another Oxford Wealth OWA Live. We're talking a little bit about credit today, so we thought we'd shift a little bit away from the tax discussion. Interestingly enough, there were a few employees of Oxford Wealth that were talking about their credit score here this last week. And interestingly enough, I'm going to reference this story again a little bit later on, but one of those employees said, hey, I just paid my credit card off, so I called the credit card company and canceled the card and threw it away. That's not a good idea. We want to make sure that we understand how our credit score is determined, and we want to make sure that we're not making mistakes. Even our own employees are a little bit concerned about how some of these things work because it's really confusing how these credit score things work. We have an article on our page right now about staying out of credit danger. Right now, the average American owes about $8,400 in credit cards. Ouch, that really hurts. We need to work to pay those debts down, and we have the 10 tips how you can avoid that credit danger. But what we're going to talk about today is a little bit about how your credit score is determined. You can use a lot of online resources like annualcreditreport.com. I really like creditkarma.com. I think it's a great free resource that you can log into. You can track your credit score. There are 3 big things that you need to pay attention to and 3 little things that you need to pay attention to. Now, these do share some level of weight, and there's a little bit of overlap. But the 3 big things are the ones that we're going to want to focus on the most. Number 1 is on-time payments. I've got a link right up here that you can click on. When I was on KOB, we talked about how to improve your credit scores. And the number 1 thing I had said, think of this like dues. You don't want to be late on your dues to a fancy private club. We want to make sure that we're making on-time payments no matter what. All of our payments are always on time. Right now, depending on who your loaner is and everything like that, something is considered on time as long as you make the payment within 30 days of when it was due. So think on your mortgage, if it's due on the 1st, you have until the end of the month technically to make that payment. Obviously, the sooner you do it, the better. But we want to make sure that we don't wait longer than 30 days because then we start to have some dings on our on-time payments and we start to lose out on some of those dues. Number 2 is credit usage. If I've got 3 or 4 or 5 credit cards, I want to make sure that I'm not maxing out all of those credit cards. We're going to look at the total usage on what's called revolving or variable credit, not using like car loans or mortgages, but on the things that we can like rack up bills on, like credit cards and home equity lines of credit. We want to keep those relatively low. You want to keep that about 10% of what all of your credit sources will cost. And number 3 is derogatory marks. So things like bankruptcies and liens and all those credit hits that happen. Those are the big ones. We want to avoid those as much as possible. We want to keep the debt limits down as much as possible. We want to make sure that we're making on-time payments as much as we can. Now, there are 3 things that aren't as detrimental to our credit score. Number 1 are credit pulls. A lot of people think, I go in and get my credit checked at the credit union or at the bank, and that's going to lower my score. It will, but not by a huge amount. You can have up to 2 or 3 of those hard pulls per year without having any issues, and they usually will stay on your credit report for about 2 years. That's not going to be crazy detrimental, not going to be a problem. Number 2 on the low impact things are the number of accounts that you have. Obviously, the more accounts you have, the better. Now, this kind of plays in a little bit to the next one, the length of the credit history that we have as well. Remember that employee that said, I closed out my credit card because I paid it off? Be very, very careful of that. If I closed this credit card, this is my oldest credit card. I got this when I was right out of high school, actually, a super senior, I guess. Got this credit card. I have not used it in probably 10 years, but I keep it open, I keep it active to make sure that no matter what happens, that credit history is staying on my credit report and that credit account is staying on my credit report. Now, it's not a huge piece. These are some of the smaller pieces that we've got to focus on, but every little bit helps. And if I'm, not understanding my credit score, how it's calculated, and I go close that account, then I lose all of that history and I have one less account to report on. So make sure that you understand how your credit score is, how it's calculated, how it adjusts and changes based off of the different things that you have. Make sure that you're not doing anything, even though you think it's a good thing, that it's actually hurting your credit score. Make sure that you understand that and keep an eye on your credit score. Use those free resources to monitor your credit score and see how things are progressing. Keep up on that. Let us know if you have any questions or concerns. please feel free to give us a call. Reach out to our website, check us out on oxfordwealth.com for more information, and we will look forward to seeing you next week with our next OWA Live.